offensive coordinator Ben Norton, the offensive line coach for the Demons, and the resident expert on the Chief Caddo rivalry between Stephen F. Austin and NSU. Graduate of SFA, played in this game for the Lumberjacks, and now has coached in this game. This will be the third year for the Demons. Ben, let's talk about that rivalry, NSU SFA, and playing for the largest trophy in sports. Talk about your perspective when you were a player at SFA.
It's a very special game for everyone involved. And you can count back the years. I remember them just like it was yesterday, how important of a game this was. And now getting a chance to come over here and coach in it has been a real special pleasure for me. And when Coach Thomas first called me and talked to me about coming down here and joining him, I said, okay, on one condition, we're going to get that trophy back.
And you had the understanding of the passion that goes into this, and it's not just this week. It really is all off season long when one team has that trophy and enjoys having Chief Caddo around, and the other team goes through off season workouts and spring ball and has no Chief Caddo. That's a high motivating factor for 365 days of the year, isn't it?
It's a 365 day a year, 24/7 trophy. That's what it is. Chief turned 55 years old this year, and he's as big as ever, 7'6", 330 pounds of black gum.
Now, when you were a player, you were an offensive lineman. Did you ever have the opportunity to carry off the Chief?
We never got it when I was there. So year one here under the Jay Thomas regime, winning that game was real special to me, as well as everyone else around here getting it back for this program, this university.
Okay. Let's get to the football side of things. Your offense has been incredibly productive for the last 6 games. You've found your stride. What are some of the factors that made the Demons very good offensively?
I think our guys have really put their heart and soul into it, and our playmakers are making plays. Our offensive line play has been very well. The last 6 games, 7 games, done a nice job at that position. That's where it starts. We kind of ran into a little of a buzzsaw this last week against a really good football team on the road who was in a must-win situation, and we weren't able to keep up with them, in the score, and that's disappointing. But there were still a lot of bright spots coming out of that game, individual and collectively as an offense.
All right, so what do you think this offense hangs its hat on nowadays?
I think we're good at a lot of stuff, but great at nothing, and I think that gives us an advantage on certain defenses.
Okay, you've got a dynamic NFL prospect at receiver with Ed Egan. You've got a left tackle in Pace Murphy, who's certainly also getting looked at by scouts. You've got a collection of running backs, 3 guys who can take the ball to the house at any given opportunity. How do you make a decision on what play gets to call?
I just take my finger and I stick it down there on the play call sheet. Whichever one comes up, I call it.
That's pretty good.
It's worked out pretty well. It really has.
I'd say so.
But let's not forget our receiving corps. I think in our tight ends and H-backs, those are 2 positions a lot of times when we don't throw the ball a lot in a game. But when we've ran the ball, we ran for 250 yards last week on the road at Sam Houston, which I thought was a good feat for us. And our receivers really blocked well. I mean, they have become total football players. We all know they're very capable of making plays with the ball in their hand, but they're all well-rounded football players, and I appreciate them and their effort they put into this team, as well as the tight end H-backs. You see we got a chance to throw the tight ends the last couple of games because of the coverage schemes we've seen, and they've been nice playmakers for us with the ball in their hands as well. But they've really been pivotal the last 6, 7 weeks of our offense as far as performing their duties noted.
You had more of a blend at quarterback last week than you have had. The combination of Stephen Rivers and Joel Blumenthal certainly presents a challenge for any defense. Talk about that.
Well, both those guys have strengths, and both of them maybe not as strong in other aspects as each other, but they bring a certain 1-2 punch to the ball game. And depending upon, obviously, the elements, the defense that we're going to play, their schematics, things of that nature, we have a plan every week to be able to utilize, 2 talents that we have. And, it's like having a left-handed reliever and a right-handed reliever. And, if you got a big-time left-handed batter coming up there, you bring the left-hander in, he strikes him out, then you bring the right-hander in. And those guys have worked well together. Our offensive coaching staff does a great job every week, and we plan these game plans out of having situations for both, and just trying the right time in the game to get that switch made and get them in and out of there.
You've been through this as a senior in college. You've been through this now many years as a coach. Talk about what it's like for those seniors going through their last game.
It's a special time. It really is, you know, and I addressed our seniors last night and told them, take everything in this week. I can still remember back in the, early 90s, and I'm sitting there going out to my last practice. And oh my goodness, I'm not going to get dressed in that locker room anymore, and then looking at my buddies and say, you're not going to be my locker mate anymore. And there's some emotion involved, and there's going to be some emotion for these guys, especially when your last game's at home. When your last game's on the road, it's a little more difficult to let it all sink in. For example, when your senior day game is a game that you still have games remaining on your schedule that are on the road in your home stadium, it's not the same. But when you have one that's your last game that's at home, and you add on the big rivalry game, you add on the chance to really show people what kind of football team we really are, because we've shown that, quite a bit this last month, what we really can be here and where we are, where we're headed in this program. So there's a lot of bittersweet feelings, a lot of emotion. I can remember as a senior, and I look at our senior offensive line last night, they're banged up. I can remember being a senior going, well, my body's going to love this, getting out of this break right now, because 4 or 5 years of this pounding, carrying around 285, 300, and 320 pounds, it takes a toll on you. And that's any position, the weight differential may be different, but our receivers are running constantly, defensive players are doing their thing. So there's a little bit of that going on in your head, thinking, finally I get a break from my body from this, and it can take a few weeks off from lifting, because as you know, football goes right into it. It's a 365-day training sport. So you got that going on. Most of these guys are really close to graduating. I think most of our seniors are going to finish up in December. Pace mentioned he was going to finish in spring. We have a few guys that will come back and take classes in the spring. But relatively, when you look at it, that they got here 4 or 5 years ago, the end in sight, the way our academic support is here and the way that the graduation rate is, they're all about to graduate. And now you've got the real world staring you in the face as well. So yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of things that are going through guys' heads. And as coaches, it's just important for us to facilitate that with them and let them understand, hey, let's go out, let's let it all hang out one last time, and let's finish with a W.
Sounds like a great idea to me.
I'm on board for it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Coach.